mentioned fresh cheeses, and that's something that certainly most Americans, are not very familiar with. We're more familiar with aged cheeses, and the fresh cheese is something pretty unique. Would you discuss the one that you have here, and how fresh cheeses? How do you use fresh cheese?
Well, it's a pleasure for me to speak about fresh cheeses because most of my work starts with fresh cheeses. I always thought that you have to like what the cheese is at its first days to basically do a good job throughout its life. And these cheeses are a good example. This one, for example, is a cow's milk cheese. It's very young. It has about 5 days on it.
Wow! May I have a sample?
Of course.
5 days only.
And you would taste.
Thank you. It's so
you
soft.
would taste the milk actually. And it's very we see more goat or sheep's milk fresh cheeses. That's really a good cow's milk cheese. This is a good example. Lovely. And this one is used a lot to put some herbs or different.
Haven't I even seen it in some Parisian restaurants where they put sugar or fruit preserves on it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I have it often at breakfast, so with jams.
Yes.
So it's
lovely. One of the other things, of course, that we want to talk about is we have some wines here. You have a glass of Sancerre. You were telling me earlier that you much prefer the Loire Valley whites, Sancerre and Puy Fumé, as a combination. Is that right? Why do you find that to be true?
Well, actually, with fresh cheeses, it's much more delicate for the palate to have white wine. It comes, the natural flavors of the milk comes out much more with white wine that is not so overpowering the taste actually.
Yeah. Can we move on to that goat, which I found, most of these are goat cheeses, but this is a pretty fresh goat cheese, correct?
Absolutely. It's fresh goat cheese that is used often as, we eat this cheese like it is, and it's used also in restaurants in accommodating some dishes, and it's a very clean cheese. It has a lot of flavors.
I just poured some Sauvignon to go with this, and I think what we've got here is 3 wines, and it became clear that that you have a personal preference. Yeah. and I chose all 3 of these because I like them with goat cheese, and the only one that doesn't fall into your category of Loire Valley wines is the Eurosong from Colbeck. But I did start with Sauvignon from Beaumar.
That's why in France we are very lucky because we speak often about our terroir, and the terroir for wines are the same than for the cheese, and usually the region of the wines pair very well with the cheeses of the region.
Can you describe how this cheese evolving, how it's aging. You can see it's very different in different parts of the cheese.
One part, as you can see, is much more aged and at the peak than the other one. And it's about 3 weeks aged.
We really have 3 different cheeses here, kind of. I mean, we have the rind, and then the ripeness there, and then a more cakey look. Would you, I mean, to enjoy this cheese properly, would you have a little bit of all at one time?
Yes.
Yes? Okay.
Definitely. And I'm sure it's going to go well with your wine.
Ah, thank you. Oh, it's lovely.
You're right,
Yeah.
actually.
With that, the richness of the more evolved cheese balances the really kind of tart character of the middle piece. It's really a nice combination. There's sort of an ebb and flow between each of the kinds of flavors and the textures.
And a good balance.
And a lovely balance. Well, I'll test this theory of yours that I'm going to like the wine with that.
I'm having a Sancerre, actually. It's perfect for this one. Perfect.
Very good. Very good.
But now we are going to have maybe reds. After that, we are going to go to Corsica and to taste a washed rind sheep's milk cheese.
And it is called
Pecorino.
Pecorino.
And it's actually the full season for this cheese. It's particularly good during spring and summer.
Thank you.
Because you have all the flavors of what is called in Corsica maqui. So that goes into the cheese, and it's very flavorful. There are different herbs that you can smell.
And that's from what the animals are eating? Or?
Absolutely.
Ah. Now, I know, oh, wow. I don't know, there are some wines that I don't actually want to drink, I just want to smell, and this cheese smells lovely. I do want to comment on the glassware, just because you may or may not know that I'm fanatical about Riedel stemware and how appropriate the right shape is. And we have the pleasure of drinking a way too young bottle of Ampuis, a Côte Rôtie from Gigal. It's the 2005, and we had the pleasure of tasting a little bit earlier, and it's lovely. But it's probably one too young, and this glass is not doing it any favors, I can tell you. But somehow winemakers will make do, right?
It's wonderful wine.
Now
I believe it goes perfectly with that cheese.
It does. So we have one more cheese. This is one that your husband, who loves Côte Rôtie, had suggested we try with this wine.
Well, a lot of Americans, I suppose, know Comté very well. This one, what has to be understood from Comté is that there are many what we call fruitières, which are the people that actually produce the cheese. And all of us, affineur, we make some choices. Basically, there are different tastes, different aging, and different tastes. And we make these choices and see how the cheese is coming months after months. And this one actually is one that is over 2 years, and apparently everybody really enjoyed the flavors because it's still very, very moist.
Yes.
So
Oh, it's very, very aromatic too. There's, oddly enough, there's a bit of a charcuterie smell to it, a bit of meat or something, and some nuttiness that, for me, it's lovely. If I can bother you for one final question, knowing cheese as well as you do, and I know that you love wine, what would be your ideal cheese wine pair?
well, actually, actually, I love the cheese that is always at home is a Old Comté. Always, always, I have that at
An
home.
old Comté?
Yes.
And how old is old Comté?
For me, it's any time after 21, 22 months,
Okay.
up to 30.
Okay. And the wine?
Because after it goes on the opposite. And the wine, which is not the favorite of a lot of people,
That's okay.
it's a vin du Jura called vin jaune.
Vin jaune. From where? From where?
The Jura, the same
From the
region.
Jura. Oh.
Yes.
Well,
That's the pairing I like.
I will have to seek that out and make the test myself. I'll get back to you on that.
Okay.
Thank you for visiting with me.
Thank you very much, Larry.
Bye now.
Thank you.
Thank you.